Hello friends, welcome to the channel. So today topic is slight sensitive, so I will directly jump to the topic. So friends, we all came across with the news that children died by drinking Indian cup syrups. So what is the wrong in the cup syrup made in India? Cup syrup made in world's pharmacy. So friends, what is why children are dying by drinking cup syrup? We will understand in this video, as well as after so many incidents. USFDA guideline also came for testing of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol. What are the recommendation of that guidance? We also discuss that part also in this video, as well as what is the relation of diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol in the death of the children by drinking cup syrup. We will understand in this video. Dear friends, before going to the next slide, just we will just go through this news. 300 kids died due to cup syrup made in India, as said by the WHO. So this type of news are not good for our pharmaceutical profession, as well as this type of news and the labeling that made in India, it is not good for our pharmaceutical industry also. We all know that our pharmaceutical industry is one of the world's best pharmaceutical industry, and as a formulation scientist, Indian formulation scientists are one of the world's best formulation scientists. So this type of news are not good for our country, not good for our profession. So let's go through the history and go through the causes behind this. Friends, death by cup syrup, it is not new. It is not first time. There are evidences in history. It is repeated many times. Just small precaution, information, knowledge of the formulation scientist, well-informed management, and the attitude in which we don't compromise in the quality. By following all these, we can easily overcome this issue, and we can make this concern as a history only. So the historical evidence of this are as follows. Like in 1937, an outbreak of DEG, diethylene glycol poisoning, occurred in the United States, which resulted from people ingested elixir of sulfanilamide that contained DEG as a solvent. A total of 107 people died. Many of them are children. So for making this elixir, which is similar to a syrup, solvent use is a DEG, because these drugs are not soluble in the aqueous, and generally to make them solubilize so that it is easily palatable to the children's, the solvents are used. So one first in 1937, DEG solvent is used, which is toxic, and because of that 107 people died. In the late 1995 and in early 1996, many children were admitted to hospital in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, with sudden kidney failure, resulting in at least 80 fatalities. An investigation by Haitian health officials, the Center of Disease Control, and FDA discovered that the cause was DG contaminated glycerine in acetaminophen syrup made in Haiti. So this is a second similar incident. Then between 190 and 198, similar incidents of DG poisoning occur in Argentina, Bangladesh, India, Nigeria, and resulted in the death of the hundreds of children. In October 2006, an outbreak of DG poisoning occurred in Panama, resulting in multiple cases of illness and death. And friends, now also it is occurring. It is happening now also. But the causes that DG, diethylene glycol, ethylene glycol, contamination in the solvents, in the excipient used to manufacture these syrup and related doses form, this cause is causing this incident. But it is not an incident, pupils are dying. So we need to all people we need to initiate awareness regarding this, because it is a very, the cause is not big, only information is required, control is required, CGMP application is required, and by that we can save lives of small children's, life of our future. Friends, all historical cases have shown some similarity. So these similarities are like that: the manufacture of the liquid drug products that contain contaminated glycerine did not perform full testing on the glycerin raw materials, including tests to quantify the amount of DEG present and to verify the purity of the glycerin received. So the companies who manufactured those syrups, those drug products, they didn't analyze the glycerin, the solvent which they used for the contamination of the toxic DEG, diethylene glycol. The manufacturer of the liquid drug product containing contaminated glycerin relied on the certificate of analysis provided by the supplier of the glycerin. That excipients like glycerin used in the formulation drug product, the company didn't check those glycerin. They didn't analyze those raw material, and they used those raw material in the formulation by trusting on the COA provided by the supplier. The origin of the glycerin was not readily apparent from the COA. The COA obtained by the manufacturer of the liquid drug products was often a copy of a COA on the letterhead of the distributor from whom they had purchased the glycerin, and not the COA provided by the original manufacturer of the glycerin. The chain of custody or distributor history of the glycerin was also not readily known, often because the glycerin might have been sold multiple times between its manufacture and its use in manufacturing the finished drug products. See, all these raw material come from the manufacturer, the raw material manufacturer. They may come to the stockist or distributor of the raw material, and then they may come to the pharmaceutical manufacturing company, which use that raw material along with the active pharmaceutical ingredient API to manufacture the drug product like syrup and all that. So there is a chain. So sometimes we focus on the active pharmaceutical ingredient only, we test only API, but in the smaller company, in the small company, we don't test excipient properly. We just take the supplier's COA, and supplier also not test. They also just for a sake of a document they provide the COA. So this type of mistake leads to this type of incident where where that the excipient is contaminated with the DEG, diethylene glycol or ethylene glycol, and because of unawareness, because of negligence, that contamination not detected, because it is the material is not get tested, and it comes into the final formulation, and by the final formulation it goes to the patient, and this horrible incident take place. So in the incidents which occur in the historical time also, in all incidents the similarity observed, this contaminated solvents, contaminated glycerine, and contaminated other excipients with the DGA and ethylene glycol leads to this type of incidents. So friends, now we know that the DG and EG contaminated excipients or presence of DG or ethylene glycol in the formulation leads to this type of incident. This type of episodes occur because of the contamination of DG and ethylene glycol. So US FDA given one guidelines in which they recommend to safeguard the quality and safety of medicine from DG and EG contamination. We'll go point by point what is the recommendation of that guideline. So first point is ensure that specific identity analysis for each lot, which includes a limit test for DG and EG, incorporates testing of samples from all containers of all lots of high risk drug component before the high risk drug component is used in the manufacture or preparation of drug products. So if you are a pharmaceutical manufacturer, if you are making the drug products, just do a risk analysis. You list down your all excipient where DG and EG contamination can be possible, and for those excipient you must analyze all containers and all lots. You analyze for the DG and EG contamination and quantify that value. For high risk drug component where the DG and EG tests are not included in the identification test of the USP NF monograph for the component, a manufacturer use a suitable and equivalent procedure that includes a test to detect and quantify DG and EG. The agency recommends that any test to detect the quantify DG and EG use a safe limit of DG and EG of not more than 0.10%. So if the sometime what happened, we analyze excipient as per USP monograph, but what guidance say that it may possible that in the USP monograph or the pharmacopoeial monograph this DG and EG identification and quantification test is missed out but in that case also you just do a risk assessment of all excipient present in your drug products, and if there is chance of contamination of DG and EG, then you must analyze that excipient. Though the test is not available in the monograph, you analyze as per your in-house test, and you control the limit of that contamination to not more than 0.10%. What it means that if the contamination is more than 0.10%, you don't that excipient, you don't use that excipient in the formulation. For high-risk drug components where the DG and EG tests are not included in the identification test of the USP NF monograph for the component, a manufacturer uses suitable and equivalent procedure that includes tests to detect and quantify DG and EG. The agency recommends that any test to detect quantify DG and EG use a safety limit of DG and EG of not more than 0.10%. Drug product manufacturers maintain current knowledge of their supplier chain for high-risk drug component, that is the identity of original manufacturer of the component and any subsequent repacker or distributor. What it means that whatever excipient you are using, that vendor should be approved. Not only vendor, you should know where that vendor is supplying, that where the manufacturing site of that excipient, whether that site is approved or not, whether they are following the GMP practices or not. So this clarity, this supply chain clarity should be there. The suppliers should be approved. You should not change your supplier by day basis. If somebody given you 10 rupees cheaper, you go with that supplier. This should not be a case. You should always go with approved supplier, reliable supplier, and quality suppliers. All personnel in the pharmaceutical manufacturing facility, especially personnel directly responsible for receipt, testing, and release of component, be made aware of the importance of proper DG and EG contamination testing and the potential hazards if this testing is not done. So all our pharmaceutical professionals, right from the store person, the QA person, the QC person, and the production person and the formulator all should know that how serious is this issue, how serious is DG and EG testing and their control. It is not only testing of an impurity; it is about the saving of somebody's life. So we should aware, we should do our job perfectly. We should test, and if the limit is less than, if the either it should be there should be no contamination, or if contamination is present then it should be less than 0.10%, then only you use that excipient for formulation of the drug product. Repackers and other who distribute and prepare high risk component for use in the drug products test the high risk component that are used, sold for use, or intended for use in drug product. Accurate and complete COA that identify the original manufacturer of the component should be issued for each component lot shipment. Means apart from the formulator, the drug product manufacturing company, these repackers means suppliers as well as a manufacturer of the excipient should also understand their responsibility. They are also the part of this noble profession. So if they are manufacturing inactive ingredient, it doesn't mean they can manufacture anything. They have to implement proper CGMP in their organizations. They have to make proper control, and they need to execute testing of these contaminations and provide reliable COA, properly analyzed COAs. Pharmacies that compound drug products that meet the condition under Section 503A of the FDC Act and that use high-risk component in compounding those drug product either test each lot for each high-risk component for DG and EG content or ensure that such testing was properly done by a reliable supplier. Whether you are just in a compounding business or you are a pharmaceutical manufacturer, this is your responsibility to test your excipient, to test your drug product for the DG and EG content, and if it is passes the limit, if the limit is not more than 0.10%, then only you allow it to proceed further. Then only you allow it to reach to the patient. Dear friends, it is not about only glycerin. All excipients where there is a probability, where there is a risk of contamination of DG and EG should be analyzed for the DG and EG content. For example, glycerin, propylene glycol, maltitol solution, hydrogenated starch hydrolysate, sorbitol solution, other high risk drug component like polyethylene glycol for tea, castor oil. So all those excipient where there is a chances of this glycol contaminations, those should be analyzed for the DG and EG content in their raw material specification. Though if it is not recommended by the particular pharmaceutical monograph, then also by keeping in-house test, you should have to always test the DG and EG. You should have to test on all lots or received, all container received for this contamination, and if it is well within the limit, then you use in the formulation. If there is any further risk because of the formulation process or anything, then you should check your formulation also for this contamination. You should check your formulation stability also for this contamination, and by this we can ensure a safe drug product reach to the patient, and we can avoid this type of incident. We can save life, and we can make our industry, and we can make ourselves and we can proud on our industry. At the end, thanks friends for watching this video. Like, subscribe and share this channel, and thanks again. Thank you very much.